Hi guys, welcome back, and this time around I'm bringing you a comparison of sub $100 multiple DD IEMs, but the focus is going to be on three models which are, let's say, the latest to join this club, and I'm talking about the TRI Draco, the TRN White Tiger, and the CVJ NightElf. These two are the most recent ones. The CVJ has already been out for a couple of months, and I had intended to have done a review only for it, but I think it wasn't a waste to have spent or waited a little bit longer to then now do this this mega comparison. Let's put it that way. Before I go into each of one of the three individually, I'm just going to take you through what I've selected here. There might be one or two IEMs missing here, but I think for the most part I've got the majority of the multiple DD IEMs priced at under $100 available. I've got here the Tangzu X HBB Swan in V. I've got the Truth Years Zero Red. I could have also added the Zero Blue, but I think the Zero Red is suffice. On the top there, the Aoshida E20, one of my favorite little IEMs in this category, and very much underrated. The RTR1, again another IEM which I very much like. Next to that, the Lecturer, the DZ4. It's actually interesting because all of these three IEMs are made by Lecturer. Obviously this is a Lecturer, and those two are made by Lecturer for their respective companies. On this end here, I've got two products from KZ or CCA, the CCA Trio and the KZ Vader, but the high resolution version. And then of course, yeah, in the front, the three mentioned star of the show for this time around. In terms of what I used to listen to, I used the RU7 and the Cayenne Yuki with the NX7 as the amplifier. I did just briefly connect up the FIO, the Q15, and tried a few other dongles, but I mean 95% of the listening was done with this, as again these two dongles kind of brought out the best within these particular IEMs. Anyway, let's then delve here into this. The TRI Draco, sorry, my apologies. It's a 2DD IEM. The interesting thing here is the fact it's got an open back design, and yes, you do notice that open back on some occasions. It's not as you would maybe think, as noticeable as you would probably think, but it's noticeable. In terms of the drivers that they are using in the Draco, they are using an 8mm and a 6mm. The 8mm is a LCP driver, and the 6mm is a titanium driver. The 6mm is facing directly the nozzle, and then the 8 is next to that. What else can I say? I mean, it's a very nice shell, beautifully done shell. I'm not using the stock cable, as you might have noticed by now, but the stock cable, it's a little bit on the thin side. I guess it's okay when you consider this is an IM priced at around between $50 and $55, so I guess it's okay. The shell, as I said, it's a CNC machine shell, fits quite nicely. The only issue here, maybe with some people, might be the ear hook with this particular cable that I'm using. I didn't have any problem, as it's actually quite soft, and the angle that it's got and so on. It might be a little slight issue for some people. Also, if you notice, the angle of the nozzle is not as pronounced as sometimes is the ideal. So if it was a little bit more inclined facing upwards, it would have been a little bit better for the fit. So what ends up happening is you have to actually fit the IEM. Well, in my case, I had to actually fit the IEM with an angle like this, and that's where then the cable can be a bit of an issue. Other than that, I mean, it's a nicely done, nicely built IEM. It's got the TRI branding behind it, so it has to be nicely put together. Sorry there. Just showing you, this is the case that it brings. I didn't take you through the whole unboxing because I think it's unnecessary, but it's got a decent enough case. Some nice tips as well. No issues there. It's got two types of tips. It also brings the clarion tips as well, which I did try, but I ended up using these tips here from Panon, which are the ones that actually were working the best, although the white ones that it brings also didn't perform that bad. I mean, it was very, very similar. I just found that the green ones from Panon just ended up working best for me in my ears. But anyway, not a real issue. They've got decent tips. Like I said, they've got the clarions, which work nicely as well. My issue with the clarions is they are a little bit soft, so when I try to insert them nice and deep, which is something that will be needed here with the TRI, they kind of break their seal, and that was the only problem. But other than that, no real deal breaker. So like I said, nicely built IEM, solid, seems to have some nice drivers inside that seem to be decent quality, and a valid attempt from TRI to enter this segment. Next, I'm going to take you to the CVJ, the NightElf. Again, it's a multiple DD IEM. In the particular case here of the NightElf, they're actually using three drivers. One is a composite 6mm and a 10mm, which is facing the nozzle, and next to that, or more or less in this area here, where my this area here. So the main driver is directly on the nozzle, and the other drivers over there is a 8mm driver. The drivers are DLC diaphragm, if my memory serves me correct. And again, there's really not much I can point as a negative aspect in terms of the shell. It fits nice. It's a big shell, considering it's only got three drivers and one of them is a coaxial. What I did not like, and please, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, is that the faceplate design is very, very tacky. It makes the whole IEM, which actually has a nice shell, it brings a decent cable. I'm actually using the stock cable. It brings a nice case. It's a metal case. So, when you consider that this is $40 roughly, it's actually quite admirable to see how they've, done their work in terms of selecting, decent cable, decent case. The tips are not that bad, although I'm using the KBO7s, as you can see. And then they spoiled everything with this faceplate, which is just very tacky. I can understand the whole waifu thing and so on and so forth, but it just looks very, very, very cheap, and it just spoils the whole experience, in my opinion. In terms of the fit, if you notice that nozzle is slightly angled upwards, which is the ideal, and that does allow the IEM to sit nicely and straight in my ears. At least it fits nicely, although it's a bigger IEM. I mean, just for the sake of comparison, that's it's a big boy compared to the Draco. Huge IEM, but it actually fits quite nicely, and no real issues with fatigue and having them in my ears or anything of the sort. It's again a solidly built IEM, nothing to be pointed as a major fault other than the faceplate design. Just no. They could have maybe done outline of the NightElf or something else other than this really cheap print on the faceplate. It just looks very, very tacky. Apologies there for my ugly finger. So that's it. So NightElf out of the way. As I mentioned, an IEM costs about $40. And then finally here the TRN White Tiger. Again, a full metal shell. It's got this. It's seems to have been painted, but it also has some sort of relief. I don't know if it's also been engraved or something of the sort. What I do know is that it looks nice. It does look nice. I mean, it is an acquired taste, I do admit. This white finish with the stripes and so on, it is an acquired taste, but again, it does justice to the whole name of of White Tiger. Not much that I can point there as a negative aspect in terms of how well it's been put together. What does the White Tiger here have as a differentiating factor in terms of the driver setup? Well, it's a hybrid driver which has two dynamic drivers and a planar of sorts as well, and they're all stacked one on top of the other, which is actually quite interesting. I believe I've got here a picture. There you go. So you got the first driver, which is an 8mm, so which is that first one there. Then you got a 10.5 millimeter, and then the final driver is a 6 millimeter planar driver of sorts. So in essence, if I want to be correct, I guess this is probably the one high IEM here that you could say it's a hybrid, because you got that planar setup. You can see that this, as opposed to some multiple diaphragm drivers that sometimes you see, and they call them dual dynamics and so on and so forth. No, then there's only one magnetic system on those drivers many times. So there's actually just one driver with just two diaphragms. In this case, now you have one magnetic system there for the 8 millimeter system, for the 8 millimeter driver, another magnetic assembly for the 10.5 millimeter diaphragm, and another magnetic assembly for this. So it's like, as I said, it's three drivers that have been stacked on top of each other. I mean, I'm sure that they've done their work, because I mean, obviously the 10 millimeter driver and the 8 millimeter driver sitting behind, being the ones that are behind, somehow their sound has to come through and exit through the front. So they've definitely done their work, and the reality is, when you listen to the White Tiger, it does sound nice, it does sound different, it does deserve, well, as does the CVJ as well. It does deserve at least to have some attention paid to it, because it is a different setup to what we are used to see when we talk about these multiple DD drivers. Usually it's either side by side, which is the case with the Draco, or then yes, we do have a which I didn't bring out here, which is the Caster from KZ, which is again two drivers which are again coaxially mounted or stacked on top of each other. Much like what happens here with the CVJ NightElf in the 10 and the 6 millimeter. Here it's just different because we have three drivers stacked together. Look, when it comes to, let's say, being technically different from the rest, the White Tiger has hit the nail right on the head. Anyway, brings a very nice cable, modular. The build, as I said, is fine, it's perfect, fits beautifully, no issues. It brings the TRN T-tips, again, nice. I actually ended up just using the T-tips, they worked fine, and no need for me to use the KBO7s or the Venus Velvet, although I did try them with those as well. And I would say that the Venus Velvet would probably be a slight, it would probably have, a slight advantage over the T-tips, but I mean, to be fair, it brings the T-tips with it, so why go spend the extra money on the Venus Velvet? If you have them, try them out, maybe they will work, and you will notice that slight little difference that I'm talking about. But anyway, in terms of the accessories, the cable, everything is fine, except for one thing which I'm going to now mention. This is priced at around $65 to $70, so it's one of the more expensive ones over here, but all the boxes, in my opinion, have been ticked to justify that price. The one thing that I definitely was very disappointed is, oh, and I was mentioning, I was forgetting to mention another thing, which is the fact that the White Tiger also has adjustable, exchangeable nozzles, which will provide a slight little difference in the tuning, which is here. So when it comes to that, it's the most complete one, I would say, apart from probably the KZs, which have the tuning switches. But the one thing that really did disappoint me is, the case. Okay, White Tiger, I can understand, blah 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 blah. This is a cheap ass case. I mean, seriously, this is nasty. They could have used another white case, obviously, if that's the theme they want to go for, but there's so many nice white cases. I mean, 10 Hi-Fi comes to mind. They've got some nice white cases. Legion also has a nice white case, and BGVP also uses some nice case. I'm sure they could have had a better case instead of this really cheap one. And then on top of it, inside, it's not even padded or anything. So what is undoubtedly going to happen with time is that this paint on the actual IEM is going to start chipping, because then IEMs are knocking each other inside and so on and so forth. So it's a pity, because they did almost everything right, and then they just spoiled it here with the case. So TRN, you guys, you messed up here. You really did. That's basically it. I mean, I think I've introduced 3 IEMs very well. So let's get into what matters, which is sound. Okay, let's talk about sound now. There is, I would say, three styles of sound here. We have a more kind of neutralish, very politically correct sound, which is what we find in the Tangzhou, the Truth Ears, and in the DZ4 from Nature. And then we have a slightly more brighter sound in terms of more mid or high frequency focused, which is what we get on the our Shida, and what we get here on the high resolution version of the Vader. And then we have a sound which is what the TRI, the RTR1, the TRI Draco, the White Tiger, and the CVJ as well give us, which is a more kind of organic sound, where the difference between them is how the upper mids and treble are done, basically. These two, the Draco and the R1, being very similar in that aspect. The White Tiger also being somewhat similar to those, but with more extension up top. And this one again similar to the rest of them, but with a noticeable dip there in the upper mids and treble area. There's a noticeable suppression, which is not bad, but it makes it sound a little bit hollow at times. As for the CCA trio up top there, it follows that kind of harmony style of tune. The trio has got that bass which is it's got that bass which tucks in and is controlled by those switches where you want it to tuck in, and I would say that probably the trio, and to a certain extent as well the Vader, although the Vader is more along the lines of, like I said, the Aoshida, and to a certain extent a little bit these two, but with more energy. I would probably say the trio still falls more within what the White Tiger offers, what the R1 offers, although it's got a little bit more energy up top. So that's basically it. Okay, now let's go individually, each one of them. Well, I'm going to start here with CVJ. As I just mentioned, the CVJ, it's got a very much mid-bass focused sound, although it's got enough low end to satisfy most bass necessities, but definitely in terms of rock and so on, that nice thump or that you want with the kick drum and so on, this will do it very nicely. I mean, High Flying Whale from Ludea is a song that I like using to see where that, how good that thump is. And you listen to this, for example, and you listen to the Swan and V, the Tangzhou, or you listen to the Truth Ears, and even to a certain extent as well the Aoshida E20, and you notice that those are significantly leaner and not, in my opinion, as correct. And they don't give that thump that song has, the necessary reality, the necessary energy. Okay, so they sound thin, especially the Tangzhou sounds definitely the thinnest. Although the Tangzhou and the Truth Ears have got that gliding style of bass, and the Aoshida has got more that tuck style bass, the issue there with the Aoshida is because it tucks very early, tucks at under 150 hertz, you lose a little bit of that mid bass slam that sometimes is needed. But even with that, let's say, handicap, it's still capable to give that song a more realistic feel than what definitely the Tangzhou does, and to a certain extent as well the Truth Ears. Although the Truth Ears, if I have to be honest, with the 10 ohm adapter, it does have a little bit more engagement, a little bit more fun than the Tangzhou. So bass here in the CVJ, I think it's really nicely done. No issues there. It's got a nice mid bass impact. Even the bleed that exists into the mids and so on, it's not, in my opinion, overly offensive. It's got a nice initial part of the pin again, which kind of keeps up with the bass and so on. It's then past that we start having these big dips, which, although the top end has got enough energy to again keep up with the bass from behind, because we have those dips, we have that absence of energy, at least at a level which equals the rest. You notice this thinness in the upper mids, which it just shuts down a little bit some songs. And so female vocals, they'll kind of sound a little bit darker, and they'll sound, you can definitely pick up that there's something missing there. Very noticeable, for example, when you take the NightElf and like E20, just comparing these two, or the DZ4, very noticeable. Again, the same thing with the trio, very noticeable. In terms of its technical capabilities, detailed retrieval, it's okay, acceptable, I guess. Not standout, but acceptable. Resolution, again, could be a little bit better. I think it's down to that tuning there that just, in my opinion, didn't hit the right point. I think the best way to summarize here the NightElf is it's a fun, entertaining IEM that if you don't mind the faceplate, and if you're wanting to have something which is truly different, okay, something which stands out in terms of how the drivers are being configured, then it makes sense. I mean, I've seen this IEM as low as $27. For $27, I'll be honest with you, even though it might not be the perfect execution when it comes to sound, it's interesting enough in terms of how they've gotten those drivers and put them together and try to get something here which is interesting. It's got an interesting enough sound to justify its existence. Compared to the IEMs that are here, it's difficult for me to compare the NightElf, for example, with something like the Swan NV or the Truth Ears, because it's two totally different types of sounds. This will definitely be more appealing and more fun. So if you're listening to something which has got a lot of high energy, and you're listening to something which is EDM based or hip hop, this will do it properly. These two they will lack a little bit of the desired energy, and it's very noticeable. I mean, you take something like Blue Horizon in the intergalactic mix by Dysphonic, or you take Closer by Carl Harris Jr. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to straight away pick the CVJ. The CVJ is going to be the best. Now, obviously, there are IEMs here that do what the CVJ is capable of doing and do it better, and that's where then the ultimate decision whether or not to purchase it is made. Anyway, that's the CVJ. I think I've painted a decent enough picture for it. I'm gonna go here now to the Draco. Draco has got a sound which is very much like the RTR1. And those of you that know what the sound of the RTR1 is like, I think you'll understand. The 8 and the 6 millimeter that I've used here are of decent quality. It's capable of giving a wide variety of songs the desired energy that it's needed. And if I have to nitpick anything here, is that up top there could be a little bit more energy. So past 8K there could be a little bit more energy to just give you a little bit more twinklies and sparkles. So the overall sound here, much like on the R1, is a very old school kind of organic sound. It's very engaging, it's very satisfying, it's got enough energy, and the fact that it's this open back does convey a nice sense of space. So in terms of its like soundstage and imaging, I would say that yes, it does do what is the intention properly. Bass, as I said, it's clean, it's dynamic, it keeps up with most genres. I mean, like I said, be it stuff like High Flying Whale, which I was mentioning just a second ago, to get that weight of the bass drum, get an idea, or take it to something which is like I was also mentioning, Blue Horizon by Dysphonic, which is an EDM song, or then going completely full circle and Feel So Right by Lena Fidmont. There's really not much that, or Memory of You by Christopher Goes. The Draco does a solid enough job. It's clean, it's detailed. You know, there could be a little bit more, but keeping in mind that this is an organic, old school type of sound, it does the job very nicely. And you know, it does have, again, in my opinion, enough to justify maybe possible contemplation in purchasing because of this, you know, open back design. It's got enough magic, I think, for it to be deserving of at least an audition. If you have the opportunity to listen to it, at least listen to it. Compared to the rest of the stuff that's here, I mean, yes, you will definitely notice a difference between it and the Tangzu and the Truth Ears in terms of it being more energetic, more capable. Those two are going to be more, let's say, ultimately correct and polished, but less fun. These two will be more boring than the Draco, without a question. Compared to the E20, you'll notice that it's got a little bit more mid-bass stump than the E20, but the sound, yeah, is very different. That's more mid-bass, mid and vocal focused. So the high end, the upper end of the spectrum there is very nicely done, very solidly, very clinical. It's a more technically capable IEM than the Draco. Good complements to each other. Compared to the R1, very similar. Ultimately, I think if you have the R1, this doesn't make sense because they're going to be the same. And yes, the Draco does have one less driver than the R1, and the R1 is slightly more expensive. It's about $70. Very similar. Which do I still think might come out on top? Probably the R1 does more things right than the Draco. Probably the DZ4, again, it's more correct sounding IEM, like the Tangzu and the Truth Ears, although it's got a little bit more energy, and so it's a complement IEM definitely. Compared here with the NightElf, I would think that this would still be the wiser option because it's going to be more coherent across the board, or the whole frequency range. And then compared here with the CCA Trio and the Vader, the high resolution version. The high resolution version will definitely satisfy by being more capable in terms of all the twinklies and sparklies, without a question there. In terms of the trio's got that similar kind of old school vibe of sound as well, but somehow it seems to have just a little bit extra more extension up top, and the switches which allow that bass to be a little bit more adjusted does make it sound, for me at least, slightly more entertaining. Coupled to the fact that it costs, you can get it for $20. It's a hard one to not praise, and at least, however much I think the Draco is nice because of this differentiating factor, of the open back design and so on and so forth. The truth is, the Trio is a very capable IEM sonically. So, a difficult choice here. I think they are good complements to each other again because of the difference of style of tuning and so on. But this has got the price going for it, honestly. So that's that. And then finally now here, the White Tiger. As I mentioned, they're using this interesting driver setup, and what that has enabled, and I guess they tried to work around the difficulties of having these three drivers stacked, and the resonances that are created by having these three drivers stacked. The end result is in my opinion, very solid. I've left it with the nozzles which have the blue O-ring. The other two made the small peaks that exist be more prominent, and I felt that the balance overall was a little bit not as polished. So the balance that is obtained with the tip that has the blue O-ring, and then there's one as well which the nozzle is actually thinner. Actually, let me just show you here, it's easier. So if you look carefully here, the nozzles on if you look there carefully at the diameter, okay, what the nozzles here with the thinner diameter, with a narrow diameter, what they will do is they will shift the peak of the pina earlier, and that, coupled with the fact that, like I said, those peaks that exist, and when I show you the graphs you'll understand, are slightly more emphasized. I just felt that the overall smoothness, the elegance, of the sound is just lost, and the blue O-ringed tip, which is very similar here to the first tip on the left hand side, is the better one. It's the one that makes the most sense, and it's the one that I did most of the listening with, or, well, all of the listening with after I tried the other ones. So bass, it's got a nice sub bass extension with a nice mid bass energy, very much that old school kind of sound like you also get with the Draco and with the R1. It's got a bass which is very similar to the bass of the Trio, so very nice full bass, engaging, clean, capable of resolving, you know, difficult passages without any issues, and then transitions very nicely into the mids. Maybe a slight little bit of bleed, but again, the way that it's been done, it's actually very pleasurable. How can I explain this maybe in a way that you guys might understand? While over here on the Tangzu, on the Truth Years, and on the DZ4, there was a very noticeable attempt to make things sound very correct and very linear, with no unnecessary bleed into the other parts of the spectrum by the preceding ones. That comes coupled with a certain monotony to the sound and a certain loss of fun factor. Of the three, I still think the DZ4, for example, is the one that's the most fun factor, without a question. And it's actually the one that uses perhaps the smallest drivers, three 6mm drivers, plus that PFM, that passive filtering module, which is, it's not a driver, it's just a filtering module. So here, you know, although it might not be as correct as those three, for example, okay, and to a certain extent even the high resolution one, that extra bit of coloredness that they've added to it is been nicely done, and much like the Draco and the CVJ, where that also is happening, and in the RTR one again, I think that this one is probably the better implementation of that, let's say, colored aspect of things. This one and the R1 definitely. Mids, nice, no real complaints, you know, male and female vocals. There is a dip there after in the curve that you will see afterwards, between the, you know, 4.5 and 6K. But that dip, I think, again, it's been, I'm not sure if say tastefully done is the best word, but it's been done in a manner where the lack of energy that's there is not being detrimental to the rest of the spectrum, and I think the biggest reason for that part there to have been successful is because then we have quite a little bit of energy past 10K, and it just, the combination of all this just gives it a very satisfying sound. So even if there might be a little bit loss of energy on certain occasions in that upper mids area there, treble, that loss is not as significant as it is, for example, on the CVJ, the NightElf, and because you then have that extra amount of energy up top, you know, like something like let me see, Playa Blanca Dream from Buddha Bar. It just sounds very atmospheric, yeah, very atmospheric. It's just very open. It does the same. It does also sound the same way, very much in the Draco. But because the Draco doesn't have that extension up top, it just feels a little bit closed down, not as ethereal. Let's put it that way, if that's maybe the best word to use here. Memory of You from Christopher Goss on the White Tiger sounds phenomenal. I mean, Seven Sisters by Dominic Miller as well, very nice. I mean, I really can't you know, I can't criticize it because it sounds good. It sounds satisfying. You listen to it, and you know, I'm listening to Seven Sisters on the NightElf, and you notice that there's some stuff missing there. The guitar just doesn't sound as realistic as I would like, because there's information there in the frequencies that hasn't, you know, that's been too subdued. Here it sounds very nice. It also sounds nice, for example, on the Tangzu and on the Truth Years, but there you can feel that there's an excess of damping, and it just sounds, not only do I have to crank it up way more than I have to on the White Tiger to get the same sort of volume level, but it just sounds lifeless. It sounds good, but it sounds lifeless, if it makes sense what I'm saying. On the White Tiger, the R1, it sounds really, really good. It sounds, there's atmosphere, there's space to it. On the Trio as well, the same situation. On the E20 again, same thing. So I mean, seriously, it is a I think, if the, I'm not sure if the intention was there or not. I think, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what happened with the Conch as well, the TRN Conch. I don't think they had maybe a true idea of how good they were able to actually tune the TRN Conch. The TRN Conch, without a doubt, is one of the most capable IEMs, or single DD IEMs, at its price point, if not the most capable at its price, and very much able to trade blows with way more expensive IEMs. Anyway, bass perfect in my opinion for what it is. Mids again, nothing to be said there. Just that slight lack of energy sometimes, but compensated then by what you have in terms of energy up top from the latter part of the upper mids and the treble. Technically very capable, no issues there. Imaging, soundstage great, detail retrieval great, resolution great. I mean, there's very little that I can honestly consider a deal breaker. Compared to the rest, I've really kind of done that to an extent. But if you were to ask me, okay, Tony, so which do you think would make the most sense, the White Tiger or something like, for example, the Truth is, I would say the White Tiger without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's got a $20 price, well, not even $15 more than the Truth is. But the fact you got the nozzles and you can then play around even with the nozzles and so on and so forth, and it's just a better sounding or more fun sounding IEM than the Truth is, the Zero Red. Zero Red might be slightly better here and there with, you know, when ultimate proficiency and correctness is being looked for, but in terms of fun engagement, without a doubt. What I say about that applies itself here to the Tangzu as well. Compared to the Draco, the fact that it's got an extra energy up top, again, I think just makes it a more sensible option. You know, nice cable, modular. It's probably one of the better accessorized IEMs here, if not the best accessorized ones here. So tips in cable or top marks. It's just the case that just, anyway. Aoshida E20, I've always praised the Aoshida E20, and the problem of the E20 is only the fact that it lacks that little bit of mid-bass impact. But in songs like this particular song, like cause we that we're talking about, Seven Sisters from Dominic Miller, it's actually you know, it's very capable. It does that song very well. But it does songs like Cause We've Ended as Lovers by Charlie Minucci really well. That song where the E20 shines, it's exceptional at that song. And maybe in that song, for example, it might edge out ever so slightly here the White Tiger. Compared to the R1, I would say that this is an R1 with just a little bit more extension up top. So those that want a little bit more extension up top, this could be the option instead of the R1. Bass wise, although this does come out on top, again, it's very similar mids, very similar to a certain extent as well. It's not so much in the bass and in the mids where you see the biggest differences, is in the upper regions. Compared to the DZ4, too different to really be fair to them. I mean, compliments to each other, definitely. I mean, definitely compliments. CVJ, this is a better, it's just a better IEM than the CVJ. Obviously, it's also twice the price. Compared to the high resolution, I would take this over to the high resolution. And compare this to the Trio. Again, you know, the Trio has got this crazy price. Go for it. And the thing is, it sounds really nice. You know, I know that KZ has always got this issue around it with, you know, the politics that it gets involved with. But the truth is, you can't really criticize it because it sounds good. It sounds good. And it costs $20. So come on, guys. You know, forget now the politics. Looking at it in terms of pure sound, the Trio is a phenomenal IEM. It is. That's the reality. Sound wise, I would say yes, the White Tiger does edge it out slightly by being just a little bit more polished, a little bit more elegant here and there. On occasions there, the Trio can start to begin to maybe become a little bit harsh, not aggressive, but a little bit not offensive, sorry, but just a little bit too much. While here that smoothness is maintained throughout. And that's it, guys. I think I've basically said everything. White Tiger, of this new batch of multiple DD IEMs priced at under $100, is definitely the one that I think is the one that makes the most sense. Then the Draco, and then the CVJ, the NightElf. As compared to the others, or to some of the others that are available, I mean, as I mentioned, this makes sense. The CVJ makes sense just because it's got a unique or more different type of setup in terms of the drivers, and if you can get it at a really low price, maybe it could be a nice option to have to let's say complement another IEM that you might have of the same sort of style, just having something different. Okay. As for the Draco is very similar to some of the IEMs here, complements others. So okay, if I want to be, let's say, more fair and not maybe be offending people which are fans of the Tangsu or of the Truthia Zero Red, this is a complement to these two IEMs because it's a different style of tuning. Ultimately, what do I think? I think most people will prefer this over these two, just because it's more fun and satisfying. But again, it's all very relative because it also depends on how it fits in your ears and what you're actually listening to. Compared to the E20 complement R1, very similar. DZ4 complement trio. Honestly, and to be totally fair, I would probably choose the trio over the Draco, because those switches and the weight sounds and the price, and then the White Tiger, excellent accessories except for the case. I know I'm beating on the case, yeah, but anyway, excellent accessories, and the sound, it's very capable. It might not be the epitome of musical audiophile correctness, but in terms of fun, engagement, being versatile across the board with most genres, definitely ticks all the right boxes. And when I look at all of these IEMs here, and I have to say which are the IEMs I think are the standouts, the ones that are really worthwhile: White Tiger, R1, and CCA Trio. For me personally, these are the three IEMs that I think are the true standouts. In a second batch, I would say the E20, the DZ4, and the Draco. Again, for me, for my personal taste, and then the remainder in the third place. Let's put it that way. Okay, guys, I'll show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for the TRI Draco, the TRN White Tiger, and the CVJ NightElf. Anyway, let me start here with the CVJ. Get that one out of the way, and that's it, and then carry on. Anyway, this is the graph of the CVJ. As you can see, I mean, by I guess what you can consider a good looking graph, it's not exactly what you would call a graph that follows the norm. Very strong mid-bass presence, bleed into the mids, but it's not a bleed into the mids which is honestly bad or anything of the sort. This little sub-bass roll-off here, again, really not noticeable. It's got loads of impact, loads of slam, okay? Decently enough done Pina, with this little peak here at around 4, and then there's this big chasm here, which is quite noticeable because the difference is very, very you get a very big perception of this dip here, and then you got some extension as well past 10k. So overall, it's like I said earlier, the sound is an entertaining sound. I mean, it's okay. It's not going to be a technically proficient sound, so it's not going to be a technical masterpiece. It's not going to be as well an IEM that's going to be the ideal maybe for female vocals and so on and so forth. But overall, the sound is engaging, and if you find the right song, it plays really nice, and it is an entertaining sound, without a doubt. It is an entertaining sound. So that's the CVJ there. Let's get the Draco out of the way as well. Okay, this is the graph of the Draco. As you can see, the graph of the Draco, you could consider it a more usual type of style, what we've been seeing. It's got this kind of progressive slope into the bass, a little bit of mid-bass of bleeding to the mids, but again, it's nothing that's really detrimental. And then it's got this pinna gain here, which is peaks a little bit early, so vocals are a little bit forward, but they are given this tonality which is very kind of warmish because of the fact you've got this nice amount of bass here. And then yes, what you do notice is that you don't have much past, let's say 8K, and although you do have a sensation of space, of air, because of this open back design, you know, it's very much always going along the lines of like a very organic, very old school kind of sound. It's not going to be a technical master. It's not going to be an IEM that has all the twinklies and all the sparklies in the world and so on and so forth. But as I said, it's non-offensive, and you know, well, I was trying to avoid to do this, but I'm going to show you. The graph is very similar to the graph of the RTR1, which is this one here. Okay, this is the RTR1. Very similar vibe, very similar vibe. However, the RTR1 has got more information up top, so it sounds more open, and still got also that same style of bass, this very much organic, old school kind of warm tonality. Very agreeable, honestly, very, very agreeable. I've always enjoyed the R1 sound, and yeah, well, here it is. And then finally, the TRN, the White Tiger. I'm going to show you all of the graphs. So this is using, oops, sorry about that, let me just put this a little bit lower here so you can see a little bit. So this is the White Tiger with the red O-ring nozzle. Okay, this is the White Tiger with the blue, and this is the White Tiger with the black. Interestingly enough, you notice more the dips. Well, on the black, you notice the peaks of those just over 2K, and then at around close to 5K. You notice those peaks very, very well. Interestingly, the red, you notice more. At least I got that perception of more unevenness in the sound than I did with the blue nozzle, which is the one that I ended up using the most, and well, I used all the time basically, and it's with the blue nozzle that I get that best sound, or at least the sound that best suits my taste. And just for the sake of an interesting comparison, this is the graph of the TRN Conch, which I'm just gonna align it here so you guys can see. Oops, not this one. So you guys can see how it stacks up with the White Tiger. Oops, no, not this. Just leave that there. Exactly. Now, let's get the conch up there. So if you notice, the conch very, very, very much simulates or emulates the tuning of the White Tiger, or the White Tiger emulates the tuning of the conch. Very similar bass presence, just a little bit more mid bass on the White Tiger. The peak here is a little bit later on the conch, closer to 3K, while on the White Tiger it's a little bit earlier. And if you remember, this red nozzle was the one that had that smaller diameter. That's why it's even earlier. It's around maybe 2.1, while the blue one is about 2.3, 2.4. So it kind of makes things. Well, forward I wouldn't really say, because they end up being very much the same thing. If anything, the sound on the red sounds a little bit, with the red nozzle sounds a little bit darker. But look, the difference isn't that huge. I still feel that the blue one is the one that gives the best sound. So that's the one that I used. Okay, so let's get this out of the way here. Let's put here then the blue nozzle only. White Tiger blue nozzle. There we go. So, and now I can show you the rest of the graphs compared. So this is the White Tiger, the blue nozzle, compared straight away with the Draco. As you can see, the Draco kind of follows more or less the same thing, but definitely doesn't have the same information up top. And there is also a difference in the bass in terms of quantity of bass, although quality, yes, the quality of the White Tiger is also a little bit superior. And then the CVJ actually has very much the same. Let me just take away the
if you see, the CVJ actually has very much the same sort of energy in the mid bass and so on as the White Tiger, and kind of also follows very similar vibe here. It's just that then you notice this chasm in terms of information very much present on the CVJ, and you don't notice it on the White Tiger. The White Tiger just sounds more harmonious, and in terms of the sub bass as well, the White Tiger a little bit more extra rumble. Anyway, compared now to some of the stuff that I selected, comparing it here with the where is it? So let me just take away these TRNs here, because they're not going to help out with anything. Alright, so compared here with the Truth Ear 0, and this is using the impedance adapter. Graphically, you look at it and you think, okay, they might sound somewhat similar. No, you couldn't be far further from the truth. They sound very different, way leaner, way thinner sounding, the Truth Ears, okay, compared with the KZ Vader, the balanced or high resolution version, whichever you want to call it. Huge difference in the bass, definitely, and you notice that the balanced is more focused towards the vocals, okay. Compared with the Aoshida E20, the Aoshida definitely lacks that mid bass slam of the White Tiger, and it does have a little bit more information up top as a consequence of this lack of energy here. So it sounds a little bit more cleaner, but at the same time can also sound a little bit more sterile, okay, when compared with the White Tiger. 22 compared with the RTR1. A lot of similarities in the sound. I think the biggest difference here is that White Tiger's got more information up top, treble and that past 10k area is more filled with information, more twinklies, more sparklies, more airiness. But it's actually not unfair for me to say that while the R1's got more organic, old school kind of sound, and you would think that maybe by comparison the other one would be more technical, more sterile. No, it's got also that old school type of sound, the White Tiger, just with that little extra amount of detail, which is just in the right amount to not then push it into that realm of being fatiguing or anything of the sort, okay? Let me see what else. Well, compared to the Tangzhou, again, same situations with the Truth Ears. Very lean sounding, the Tangzhou next to the White Tiger. And then finally, compared with the with the CCA Trio, again a very similar type of sound. I would say that the White Tiger, the Trio, and the RTR1 or the three IEMs that maybe have kind of got the most similar sound, with the exception being the R1 maybe a little bit less treble than the others. But the differences here are minor. They're not huge differences, so nothing to, it's no deal breakers by any chance. And then comparing here just briefly the Draco. The Draco, as I said, very similar in terms of curve and overall sound to the RTR1, but noticeably darker up top, noticeably more closed down, okay. And again, compared with some of the other IEMs, I mean, if I'm going to compare it with the Aoshida is a complete opposite, so good complements to each other. This has got a sound which is more along the lines of, let me see here, like I said, R1 is the best comparison, because the rest are all, I mean, the Truth Ears again sounds very lean, and it's actually interesting because when you take the Truth Ears, just for the sake of you guys understanding, you take the Truth Ears, okay, which with this is with the impedance adapter, and you take the Aoshida, the E20, okay, as you can see, very similar, but it's interesting to see how that extra energy that the Aoshida has up top not only opens up the sound more than with the Truth Ears, the Zero Red, but somehow actually makes the bass, although very similar visually, a little bit more engaging, a little bit more there, present. So it's actually interesting. I mean, graphs are a good way of getting a rough idea of how things will sound, but not always they are the ideal. Anyway, guys, oh, by the way, I was forgetting to show you, my apologies, the Let's Shure, the DZ4. Let me just quickly get it here so you guys can see what I was saying. Let's Shure DZ4, there we go. Okay, this is the graph of the DZ4, and if you recall the DZ4, I said that the DZ4 had very much a sound, or very much a tuning style, where correctness is is what is wanted. So it's got that tuning style which kind of, let me just quickly oops, no, not this, let me get the alignment here ready. The DZ4, aligning it with the Truthier Zero Red, you would think, oh, okay, now the Zero Red's got more bass. It's actually or an equal amount of bass. No, it's very interesting, because this discrepancy that you see here in bass in terms of output doesn't manifest itself in reality. And when you listen to it, the DZ4 not only sounds more open and more detailed up top, which the graph would perhaps mislead you, but it also has a bass that, in my ears, in my opinion, is every bit as present as it is on the Zero Red, if not even maybe a little bit more. And that's it, guys. Like and subscribe. If there's any questions that you guys have, please feel free to let me know. Shoot, and I'll do my best to answer you. Again, graph of the White Tiger. I mean, it's it might not be pretty with it because of this dip here, but because it's centered where it is, it actually isn't as bad as you think. And the truth is that the White Tiger sounds good. It's got a nice, fun, engaging sound. That's without a doubt. Okay. Anyway, guys, take care. Bye bye.